Hello, this is me trying very, very hard to bring some sort of ounce of holiday Christmas spirit into one of my videos. So, welcome back to another video, you guys. Now, I feel ridiculous, but with this being my last upload before Christmas, I wanted to kind of make it somewhat Christmassy. I have such bad helmet hair because I went skiing before this, so this honestly was just like a lovely coincidence. It's a lifesaver right now for my hair, honestly. You guys don't want to see what's under this hat. Now today I wanted to talk about building a booty. Now this was my absolute #1 goal back in the day. It still is pretty high up there on the priority list for me, but that was like a really big reason why I started lifting in the first place, was to build a butt. And I know a lot of people want to do the same thing and have questions to do so I wanted to share with you guys everything that I've learned pretty much over the past like 4 to 5 years of lifting. And I also have been a personal trainer. I was certified through ACE for the past like over 2 years now, actually. So, I've had a lot of years of experience learning, researching, trial and error, figuring out what works for me. So welcome to 12 days of booty building. I know the name doesn't like really work, but basically I'm gonna be sharing with you guys 12 key tips in order to build a booty. So I kind of organized these into training, and then I have a few at the end about nutrition. So first and foremost, the first one is to train harder. Now, so many girls specifically ask me, how do you build a booty? How do you gain muscle? The initial catalyst, if you want muscle growth, is to train freaking hard. And you will know when you are truly training hard and pushing your body to its limits. Now, I'm not saying to go completely overboard, overtrain, or just completely run your body into the ground. There definitely is a fine line, but there definitely also is a threshold that should be getting pushed if you want to evoke and force change on your body. The whole point of training is to force your body to adapt by putting out a training stimulus onto your muscles and making your muscles have no other option but to adapt, grow, become stronger in order to be able to handle that load and that stress that you were putting on it when you work out. So if you're sitting there on the hip abduction machine on your phone doing 20 reps of like 30 pounds, it's not gonna do it because there's just the intensity isn't there. Like, I just don't know how else to say it. Like, you need to bring your game face on. Some people are gonna think I'm crazy, but like, I think that you need to get a little bit angry in the gym if you wanna be able to be bringing that proper intensity that you truly need in order to cause muscle growth. That's my opinion. Like, I just think, not necessarily angry, but like, you gotta get hungry, you gotta get a little bit juiced up, like you gotta get like, my dad's gonna come at me, but like, eye of the tiger mentality. Like, you need to make yourself uncomfortable. It's gonna hurt when you're training hard. Like, that's again why I love weightlifting, because you're doing something that sucks, that's uncomfortable, that hurts, that's hard, but for the betterment of the future you. Going with that specifically, what I want you guys to think about is progressive overload. So if you don't know what that means, that basically just means systematically and periodically increasing the intensity and the load of the exercises that you're doing in order to further challenge your muscles to prevent them from becoming too comfortable with your current training stimulus. So if you were to do the same exercises, same reps, same sets, week after week after week, eventually your body is going to plateau, simply just because our bodies are amazing and they will adapt to that training stimulus. They're obviously going to become stronger and more equipped in order to handle that load, that over time it's going to get easy for the muscle, that it won't feel any need to, grow. So you can progressively overload a few different ways. The most common way is just by increasing your weight, but you can also increase your sets, you can increase your reps, you can also decrease your rest times, you can also add different tempos for either the lifting or lowering phase, just anything to further that intensity and increase the difficulty of that movement. So with that, my second tip is to do both of your compound movements and your isolation movements. Now, the older I've gotten, not the older I've gotten, but the more experience I've gotten with lifting, the more I've been starting to hear like, you don't need cable kickbacks, you only need to do your compound movements. I personally disagree with that. I think you need both. So again, compound movements meaning that there's more than one joint involved in the movement and more than one muscle involved in the movement. So just for example, like your squats, your deadlift, and then your isolation movements are things like cable kickbacks, the hip abduction machine. Now, the reason I say that you need to incorporate both, because the compound movements are what build, they are what contribute to strength. They really, in my opinion, add the size and the mass. And then the isolation movements give you the opportunity to add more volume to specific body parts that you want to train a little bit extra, and does a ton with shaping the muscle. It also just gives a different stimulus for that muscle in a different rep range. I usually like to stick to anywhere like 2 to 3 compound movements, and then I'll add 2 to 4 isolation movements depending on the day. So number 3 is all about reps and sets. Another big common misconception that I get asked a lot, which I've actually recently learned about, I need to stop. Okay, that I personally recently learned about is that muscle growth actually occurs at many different rep ranges. It has actually been proven that muscle growth happens at anywhere from the rep ranges of 4 reps all the way up to like 20, 30 reps. Again, it just goes back to that main principle like I kind of touched base on in point number 1, is just that you need to be training till failure, if not till close to failure. It doesn't really necessarily matter the rep range too much. It more so matters the intensity and the effort that you're putting in and how far you're pushing your body and your muscles in that rep range. Now for compound movements, that's when I usually tend to stay in like the 8 to 12 rep range for like 3 to 5 sets. And then for isolation movements, that's when I usually tend to stay more so within the 12 to 20 rep range for anywhere between 2 and 3 sets. All right, so for number 3, I really wanted to touch base on just my near and dear favorite glute building exercises. So number 1, if you're not doing hip thrusts, I just want to talk. Like I know they can be a pain to set up, but they transformed just every ounce of my leg day, of my glutes, of the shape of my glutes, of just the size in them. I also just uploaded a full leg and booty workout, my last video, where I completely show you the whole entire setup of a hip thrust, how to do a hip thrust, how to take it down, the whole 9 yards. So if you want to check that out, I'll link that up here. Another one of my favorites in terms of like heavy compound movements, my favorite one is definitely the leg press. For me, that's just where I find I get the most mass in my lower body. Another one that I really love are reverse lunges, or like a Bulgarian split squat. I also love Romanian deadlifts. That I really get just the posterior chain of my leg, and I just feel like I get really good glute engagement with that one. I also love cable kickbacks. People talk crap about them, but I really love to do that as a finisher of like 2 sets of 15 or so at the end of my workout. Now I will note, because when I first started out lifting, all I would research best exercise to build the glutes. And again, after like 4 or 5 years of lifting and gaining experience and being a personal trainer, I believe so much that different exercises are different for everybody. Everybody has different anatomy. Everyone's bone structure is a little bit different. And even like a subtle foot placement, a subtle angling your toe outward makes someone feel a move so much more than not for somebody else. So I really just strongly encourage you to play around, and you will learn what movement patterns and what exercises your body responds best to. So kind of going with that, number 5 is to stick to the basics / similar movement patterns. Now, I get a lot of questions if I stick to, like one training program, if I do one leg workout over and over again so I can progressively overload. Honestly, no. The past like 4 years of lifting, I honestly have never done that. Every workout has been different. However, they've been similar, and I think that's the key, because the similar movement patterns are what has allowed me to still be able to progress in my weight and have there be enough overlap with the similarity in the movement patterns for me to still see muscle growth. The basics are the basics for a reason. Like the basics work. So as long as you're sticking to similar movement patterns and just working on increasing the intensity and upping your weight, then you definitely will see proper stimulus and change. So number 6 kind of goes hand in hand, and this is to do abduction work. Now, I know a lot of people skip this. Let me tell you, abduction work helps to shape the glutes and give you roundness, which just helps with the overall appearance of your glute. Now, when I say abduction movements, that's anything where you're pushing your knees outward. For example, like the hip abduction machine, that's very popular, or if you were to do lateral lunges, that sort of thing, all hits the side of your glutes. I just think it's so important to shape the glutes. All right, number 7, this is to train your glutes anywhere from 2 to 3 times a week. It kind of depends on how often you're going to the gym in the first place, but I feel like a general rule of thumb is to hit legs anywhere from 2 to 3 days a week. I feel like that's a safe number. And a lot of people will kind of overdo it, but it's super important to rest, because when you're working out, you're actually causing micro tears in your muscles, and that recovery time is actually when your muscle rebuilds and rejuvenates and grows. So it's really important to give it that time instead of working out before it's fully recovered and just continuing to break down this muscle's fibers. Now I'm getting ahead of myself. Number 8 is to allow anywhere between 48 and 72 hours of rest and recovery between each session. Now, if you don't give your body enough time to recover, you're never gonna give it enough time to rebuild, like I was saying, but also you're gonna not be able to give 100% in your next session, and you won't be able to train hard, which was tip numero uno. It's just so, your workouts are just so much more efficient, and you get so much more out of it when you're actually 100% and can push yourself to your max capacity. All right, number 9 is so freaking important, and I used to not do this for the first like year or two in my fitness journey, and then I started to do it, and I was like, okay, hello gluteus maximus and medius, how are you doing today? This has been a game changer in my leg days. Basically what glute activation is, simply all it is just warming up your glutes. Now I usually like to do this with a resistance band, or you can also do it just with body weight or with just light weight on whatever like your first few exercises are. This is crucial, especially if you are someone who's quad dominant. Girl, do some glute activation. What it does is basically just warms up your glutes and engages them and makes them fire and kind of wakes them up before you actually start your workout. All I do is like anywhere from like 5 to 8 minutes of just some band work, and I just go until I feel a burn and a pump in my glutes, and I can just feel them actually getting ready to work and just get some blood flow in there. This also will really help to prevent other muscles from taking over the movement. All right, number 10 is also very, very important and also very overlooked. This is your mind to muscle connection. I also wrote to lift with intent. Now, if you haven't heard of the mind to muscle connection, basically what it is thinking about the muscle that you are working. So like I said, you're not there in the gym to daydream, you're not there to talk to your friends, you're not there to sit on your phone, you are there to hit the muscle group that you're intended to hit, and you're there to hit it with full intention, with full intensity, and just with 100% max effort. Now, if you're sitting there doing your hip thrusts and you're not thinking about every single rep of your glute muscle contracting, you're just not gonna get as good as a contraction. Someone can fight me this until the day I die. You need to be thinking about the muscle that you're working. Like, that's why also I love lifting, is that it is so much more of a mental game than people realize. Because the whole time, it's just 100% in the zone. Like each set, each rep, I am thinking about that muscle that I am targeting and honing in on that full contraction. Now for number 11, we're kind of moving into more food and nutrition tips, and that is to eat enough calories. Now, especially girls, we really tend to overeat. I know sometimes we're scared of calories because we don't want to gain weight or whatnot, but if you want to build glutes, your body needs calories. I know it's a very big question of, you know, can I build muscle when I'm in a deficit? Can I build muscle when I'm eating at maintenance calories? Can I build muscle when I'm eating in a surplus? In a calorie deficit, I genuinely don't feel experienced enough to answer that question. I personally would say no, I don't think that you can make sufficient muscle gains in a deficit depending on how new you are to lifting. Eating at maintenance, yes, I have learned that you can build muscle while you are eating at maintenance for sure. And again, even more easily if you are new to lifting. And 3, yes, you most definitely can build muscle when you're in a surplus. Now this I think is more appropriate when you are a more experienced lifter and your body needs a little bit more to work with. But I used to think that it needed to be this huge surplus of like 500, 700 calories to build muscle, when really it's not true. It only needs to be like a slight surplus of like 200 to 300 calories. Think about it like a plant. The plant needs water in order to grow. Same thing, why your body needs extra calories in order to put on more muscle. It's actually been proven through research that the more surplus that you have, it does not equate to more or faster muscle growth. A bigger surplus obviously will help contribute to building overall mass, but when it comes to muscle growth specifically, the more and more calories you put on doesn't equate to just more and more lean muscle mass. So number 12, finally going with that, is to eat a sufficient amount of protein as well. Now, obviously carbs and fats are equally as important. If you've been following along, you know that I lost my period because I wasn't eating enough carbs and fats. The rule of thumb that I like to stick to is to eat anywhere between 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per body pound that you weigh, or you could do 1 gram of protein per lean pound of body mass. Now again, the number will need to be changed depending on how experienced you are, but if you stay anywhere between that range, I definitely think that will be plenty for you to see muscle gains. That's everything. If you liked this video and if it was helpful for you in any way, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps my channel and just lets me know what kind of content you guys are liking. And I have been posting 2 videos a week, one on Sunday and one on Wednesday, so if you don't want to miss miss any of them, definitely subscribe. I'd love to have you along. I'm sending you guys so much love. I hope you have a very, very Merry Christmas. And if you're seeing this after Christmas, I hope you had a really good Christmas. I'm sending you all the love and light in the world. And I hope you guys are thankful to be alive. I feel very thankful to be alive. Why am I getting teary-eyed? I just really have been loving doing this, and I really have been appreciating the support from you guys lately. So I'm gonna go now. Again, thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.